Bhakta Kuchela. With excitement, Guru told his students that he was expecting Krishna to become his new disciple. Intrigued, the students requested, "Please tell us about Krishna." And so, the Guru began his narration. Following the marriage of his sister Devaki to Vasudeva, the tyrannical Kamsa of Mathura was on his way. A divine voice unexpectedly resounded, announcing the prophecy that Devaki's eighth son would be the end of Kamsa. Overcome with anger and a chilling fear, he stood ready to kill Devaki. In a voice filled with desperation, Vasudeva said that if Kamsa spared Devaki, they would hand over all their future offspring for him to kill instead. Focusing his plea on Devaki's well-being, Vasudeva secured an agreement from Kamsa not to harm her. Nevertheless, Kamsa imprisoned them. Vasudeva honored their agreement by presenting their first child to Kamsa. However, Kamsa decided he would only kill Devaki's eighth child, permitting her to keep the first. Though Vasudeva was happy upon his return, Kamsa had a change of heart and murdered the infant in front of Devaki and Vasudeva. Kamsa's sanity crumbled under the weight of his fear of death. He murdered Devaki's 7 children and audaciously boasted about it to the sage Narada. Kamsa anxiously awaited the arrival of their 8th child. Then, Lord Vishnu appeared before Devaki and Vasudeva and informed them that he himself would be born as their 8th offspring. They were told to bring the baby to Ambadi and exchange it with Nandagopa's daughter. Not long after Devaki's delivery of a baby boy, Vasudeva took the child in his arms. At that moment, the prison gates opened mysteriously, and all the guards were overcome by a deep sleep. Vasudeva carried the baby in a basket on his head. As he journeyed, a heavy rain began. Suddenly, Ananta, the divine serpent, appeared, acting as an umbrella to protect the infant. As Vasudeva approached, the river miraculously divided, allowing him to cross. Arriving in Ambadi, Vasudeva went into Nandagopa's house. He swapped the babies and then carried Nandagopa's daughter back to the prison. Reaching the prison to carry out the infanticide, Kamsa was told by Devaki that the baby was a girl, different from what he had expected. She then pleaded with him to spare the girl's life. Ignoring her pleas, Kamsa was determined to kill the child. He seized the baby and hurled it onto the floor. In a surprising transformation, the baby became a goddess. The goddess then told Kamsa that the one who would kill him had been born. Kamsa attempted to locate Devaki's son, but his efforts were unsuccessful. Krishna spent his childhood in Ambadi, growing up as the son of Nandagopa and Yashoda. Little Krishna's attempts to pilfer butter were a source of happiness for Yashoda as she watched him. In a cruel act, Kamsa killed all infants born on the same day that Krishna was born. When Narada came to Kamsa's palace, he questioned whether Kamsa had looked in Ambadi. Kamsa replied negatively and immediately summoned his sister, Puthana. He then instructed her to go to Ambadi and kill any infant she found there. Narada advised Puthana to not appear in her scary form when she went to Ambadi. Puthana went to Ambadi, having transformed herself into a beautiful lady. Around the same time, Nandagopa planned a trip to Mathura. He bade his family farewell and then proceeded to Mathura. When Nandagopa met Vasudeva inside the prison, Vasudeva and Devaki asked after the child. Nandagopa informed them that the baby was all right. Puthana went to Nandagopa's place and had a talk with Yashoda. The moment Yashoda went inside to retrieve milk for Krishna, Puthana took the child and put her poisoned breast to his lips. Nevertheless, Krishna employed his divine might and killed the demon. Nandagopa reached home to see the small Krishna seated on the body of the deceased Puthana. Kamsa was in wait for Puthana to return when a soldier ran up and told him that she was dead. Consumed by rage, Kamsa called for a different demon and commanded it to take Krishna's life. The demon came to Ambadi and manifested as a powerful twister. He grabbed Krishna and ascended into the sky with him. The demon was killed by Krishna's legs, and everyone was a witness to it. Filled with apprehension, Kamsa was told by Narada to dispatch more demons to kill Krishna, with Narada secretly desiring their demise. Krishna's childhood was spent as a sweet, playful, and often mischievous boy who was always with his friends. Yashoda started hearing from people about the trouble Krishna was causing with his naughtiness. Kamsa's worry prompted a discussion with Narada. Narada suggested he ask Vasudeva where Krishna could be found. Because Vasudeva is known for his honesty, he would surely tell the truth. Kamsa found this advice appealing. Kamsa asked Vasudeva to explain the actual sequence of events. But Vasudeva did not tell him the truth. With a menacing tone, Kamsa said he would bring the child to Mathura and butcher him into pieces in their presence. Krishna was eating dirt one day, so Yashoda reprimanded him and told him to open his mouth. To her astonishment, Yashoda saw all the past avatars of Vishnu within. Surprised by what she saw, Yashoda bowed down. Yet, Krishna made her forget the entire incident. Yashoda bound him to a heavy stone mortar. Upon her departure, Krishna pulled the mortar as he moved, and this resulted in 2 gigantic trees falling over. Two celestial beings manifested from the fallen trees and thanked Krishna for ending their cursed existence. Kamsa is going impatient as he couldn't find Krishna. Kamsa sends another demon to kill Krishna. Krishna humbly asks to go to the forest. Amidst the grazing cattle, his flute melodies dance through the trees. As the cattle graze, the monstrous snake Kalia suddenly grabs one of the cows. Krishna wastes no time. He jumps into the river to save it. In the dark depths of the river, Krishna finds Kalia, the five-headed serpent of legend. A great battle unfolds beneath the waves, ending with Krishna's resounding victory. Leaping onto the serpent's hood, Krishna dances upon it with divine grace and power. Overwhelmed, Kalia's wives emerge, pleading for mercy. Touched by their prayers, Krishna grants Kalia his life. Kamsa dispatches Akrura, Krishna's own uncle, to escort him to Mathura. In secret, Kamsa schemes to end Krishna's life by setting deadly elephants in his path. Akrura escorts Krishna to Mathura. As Krishna draws near, Kamsa is haunted by terrifying dreams, his mind restless with fear of the divine boy. Kamsa jolts awake from his nightmare, only to be met with grim news: Krishna has already overcome the elephants set to kill him. Driven by rage and fear, Kamsa challenges Krishna to a fight. But the battle is short. Krishna overpowers him, and Kamsa falls. With Kamsa defeated, Krishna rushes to free his imprisoned parents, Devaki and Vasudeva. To restore order, he places Kamsa's father on the throne of Mathura. Upon arriving at the Guru's place, Krishna is met with a warm and joyful welcome. With the blessings of the Guru, Krishna begins his education. Krishna and Kuchela set off together into the forest, where they begin their search for firewood. When the rain starts to pour, Krishna and Kuchela find a cave and take refuge inside, waiting for the weather to calm. Kuchela, seeing Krishna fall asleep, takes the opportunity to eat the beaten rice, though it was meant for both of them. With their education concluded, Krishna and Kuchela say their goodbyes and set out for their separate homes. Years passed, and Kuchela settled down, marrying and having children. Yet, despite his efforts, he lived in hardship, barely managing to survive. Krishna's marriage to Rukmini sparks fury in Sisupala, who had hoped to marry her himself. In his rage, he issues a royal decree forbidding the utterance of Krishna's name in his lands. Being a subject in Sisupala's kingdom, Kuchela is overcome with sadness upon hearing the king's edict banning Krishna's name. As Kuchela endures his hardship, his prosperous neighbor takes the opportunity to mock him, mocking his dire state. Kuchela's wife, seeking to feed her children, approaches the rich man for rice. He agrees to provide it, but only on the condition that she undertakes some household chores. While Kuchela's wife is at the rich man's house, their children come searching for her, but they are dismissed and sent away. Just as hope seemed lost, a messenger arrives with alarming news: Kuchela has been taken by the king's soldiers for singing songs that honor Krishna. Sisupala attempted to recruit Kuchela into his royal employ, conditioning the offer on Kuchela ceasing his remembrance of Krishna. However, Kuchela's loyalty remained unwavering, and he rejected the king's offer. Despite his wife's plea to approach Krishna for financial help, Kuchela refused, believing it was wrong to trouble Krishna with their personal difficulties. A kind neighbor provided Kuchela with some rice. However, their plans to cook were interrupted by the arrival of another poor person requesting food. Without hesitation, Kuchela offered the rice to the poor individual who had just arrived. Little did Kuchela know that the poor man asking for food was Lord Vishnu. Sisupala is making plans to attend the Rajasuya ceremony, where Krishna will also be present. He vowed to publicly humiliate Krishna in front of everyone. Starvation gripped Kuchela's household. His children were reduced to drinking only water to survive. The shadow of death loomed over one of Kuchela's starving children. In that desperate moment, Kuchela's prayer reached Krishna, and the child was miraculously brought back to life. Satyabhama questioned Krishna, wondering why he was not extending aid to Kuchela in his need. Krishna explained to Satyabhama that Kuchela's present state was a result of his karma and that his future depended on fulfilling his duties. Failure to do so would bring about negative repercussions. Krishna further said that the time was ripe for Kuchela to be relieved of his suffering. Amidst their hardships, Kuchela and his wife spoke at length and ultimately agreed that Kuchela would undertake the journey to Dwaraka to seek help from Krishna. Mindful of custom, Kuchela was uneasy about visiting Krishna without a present to offer. The next day, spurred by their conversation, Kuchela embarked on his journey towards Dwaraka. Despite his desire to see Krishna, Kuchela was blocked by the guards, who even went so far as to push him down. Defiant in his devotion, Kuchela responded to the guards' brutality by singing Krishna's glories. To the surprise of everyone, Krishna, upon hearing Kuchela's singing, came running out and embraced him with a lavish welcome. After their emotional hug, Kuchela, the impoverished friend, was welcomed into the opulent palace. There, Krishna himself took on the role of host, serving Kuchela, and they dined together. Kuchela enjoyed the hospitality befitting a king. Showing his care, Krishna then inquired about Kuchela's wife and children, asking how they were doing. Turning his attention to customary etiquette, Krishna asked Kuchela what token of affection he had brought. Kuchela, feeling the weight of his poverty, simply stated that he had nothing. Krishna's attention was drawn to a pouch he was holding. With a playful move that surprised Kuchela, Krishna took it and opened it. The small amount of beaten rice in the pouch triggered a fond memory for Krishna. He chuckled, reminding Kuchela of a time when they were younger and Kuchela had polished off Krishna's share of the same simple fare. In the same moment, as Krishna reminisced, a miraculous change occurred in Kuchela's absence. His simple dwelling had become a magnificent palace, and his wife was dressed in royal finery, covered in jewels. She expressed her gratitude to Krishna. Everyone present then praised Krishna. Still grounded in his humble mindset, Kuchela had no knowledge of his newfound fortune and therefore didn't think to ask Krishna for any kind of material aid. Kuchela's mind was filled with thoughts of what he should have asked Krishna for as he journeyed home. Yet, the reality that greeted him was beyond his wildest dreams. A grand palace stood in place of his humble dwelling. While Kuchela grappled with the bewildering sight of the palace, his wife, now adorned in finery, came out to greet him with a welcoming smile. His wife recounted the unbelievable events that had transpired. Upon realizing the extent of Krishna's unspoken generosity, Kuchela's heart overflowed with devotion, and he started singing hymns in praise of Krishna.